So well done, you've just landed yourself a gig somewhere with your mates or with someone that you may know or someone that you may not know that's just said, hey, there's a gig here, come. What do you do, how do you prepare for it and actually get through the gig without breaking a sweat? Well, in today's video I'm going to show you just some top tips of what I do if I've got a gig to make sure that I play that gig as best as I possibly can. Now, the first thing to do is ask for the set list, and you know, there's always going to be some sort of set list for a gig. If it hasn't been decided yet, then perhaps suggest some tunes, and if those tunes are accepted, then go ahead and learn those tunes. But find the set list and learn those tunes, because learning the tunes beforehand in the gig makes it so much easier to play it at the gig, and you don't have to worry about messing it up as much if you've got the sort of practice. Yes, there might be some difficult bits that might be a little bit more strenuous, but going over and practicing those and really nailing those means that you've got a much higher likelihood of nailing it at the gig. And there's something else which is really beneficial from this, which is at the gig, if you've practiced and then everyone notices that you're prepared for the gig, you're much more likely to get another gig. And people really like it if you're not stressed at a gig and you just play well and are calm and relaxed, because it makes everyone else calm and relaxed, and they know that they can rely on you in future scenarios and for that gig, for the job that you need to do. If you're unreliable and you're a bit all over the place and you're unprepared and all of that, it doesn't pose well in terms of the other musicians, because they can't sound as good because you're not up to where you should be for the gig. And also it means you're much less likely to get called back, because they're like, oh well, he didn't really prepare for that. First impressions really do mean a lot. I know I don't mean to scare you with all of this information, so I know it's a lot to sort of put on your shoulders, but you know, as long as you really look like you're trying your best, and you are trying your best truly, and you have done some practice, even if you don't absolutely nail everything, it's not about nailing everything, it's about, you know, basically nailing everything. They're not expecting you to play everything perfectly, because musicians make mistakes and that's fine, we all do it, so there's no point worrying about the tiniest little mistakes. Just try and not make any big ones on your first gig, but as long as you're kind, respectful and calm and you are actually prepared, you should really have no issues. Now, a next thing to deal with is stage fright, and there's sort of no way that you really can deal with this before the gig, apart from just like when you're at the gig. First tunes are always the most difficult ones. Once you've got through the first tune, you start to settle down a bit and you know, it starts to go a lot more smoothly. But first tunes for anyone are always just the hardest, most sort of stress inducing ones, I guess, because you feel like the pressure's on. I think everyone feels like the pressure's on, but the only way to really combat that is, you know, actually go out there and do it. And you know, especially for your first few gigs, you'll be absolutely terrified standing up and playing, and that's totally fine. I was like that when I started myself, and you know, we all pushed through that phase, and I found after about 3-4 gigs is when I started to feel pretty comfortable, and I was like, yeah, no, this is fine and I can do this. Especially around solos, I found always a little bit meh, but you know, it's always like that, I guess, for any musician, no matter their level. They always think, oh no, and you might think, oh, someone's such a good musician, they don't worry about any of this, but basically every musician does. There's no case really when a musician doesn't, so don't feel like you're alone in that just because you're perhaps lower down the ladder. I put that in quotations because I don't really see anyone as lower or higher in the musical space. I just, you know, it's a constant thing, and people are better at doing different things than other people, so that's how it goes there. Now, also for the gig, so you know the tunes, and you're going to try and not be scared, but it's okay to be a little bit scared. For the gig, you know, come with the appropriate dress wear, because it matters for the gig. If it's somewhere a little bit more fancy, wear something a little bit more fancy. You know, you've got to take care in your appearance even. You're not going to change opinions just based on the clothes you wear, at least I think you won't. So make sure that your appearance is up to standard for the gig. You look nice, that you smell nice, you present yourself nicely, because presenting yourself nicely, you know, shows that you do care, and you care about this gig, and you care about the other musicians that are there on this gig. If you sort of just come up in some shaggy baggy clothing and you smell like you've been in a ditch for a few days, that doesn't pose so well on the other musicians if they're all in suits and ties. So you do want to check that. You also want to check how long the gig is. You've got to be prepared for how long you might be playing for. If it's something like a wedding gig, you might be around for quite a while, even though most people's first gigs don't tend to be a wedding gig. But hey, it could be you. You could have been invited to play a wedding gig. But you want to know how long you're playing for, when you're playing for, and all of that. You also want to know if you're going to be doing any rehearsals. Usually not, but you may be doing some rehearsals for a gig, especially if it's a group project or band thing. There'll be rehearsals and you may already be aware of that stuff, but make sure always to check if any of that's going on. If they say no, we haven't got any time for rehearsals, then that's fine, and then that's your time to go and practice those tunes by yourself. Make sure to always get there on time and really early, to be honest. Not like so early you get there for like airport early when you're there 3 hours before, but get there a good like hour before you really need to be there, unless you know everyone else is only going to be there half an hour before, but still maybe 45 minutes, something like that. And it also gives you leeway if when you're getting there there's traffic or anything like that that might get in the way and cause you to be late, so it makes sure that you aren't late. So if you're not late and you're well dressed and well prepared for the gig, you know how long the gig is, and you've learnt all the tunes for the gig that you need to learn, then you're pretty much golden. You don't really need to do anything else. Just play and enjoy the music and enjoy the experience. And ultimately, it's all about enjoying it. Yes, it is work and you'll be getting paid for it, but still, you want to enjoy the experience and you want to enjoy the music, because otherwise there isn't really a point in becoming a gig musician, is there? So that's all I've got for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!